So today we're going to talk about bogus emails and things that have been happening to some scams that have been happening to Old Guard members, and just to alert you all and keep you informed as to what's happening and what you can do about it. And with no further ado, I'll turn it over to Paul Tukey.
Okay. Hello, everybody. Let's see. How many people do we have on the meeting? Oh, still 52. Oh, that's not. I suppose that quite a few of you have gotten some email. Joel said, well, I'm talking about junk mail. Let me make it clear. There's all kinds of junk mail. I regard spam as junk mail, but spam is unwanted email, that's advertising something, trying to get me to buy something. And I distinguish that from scam email that's really trying to bilk me out of money, get me to pay them money for nothing, or to break into my accounts and take money for themselves or do damage and so on and so forth. So scams are much more serious than ordinary spam. I suppose that you could say that scam is part of spam, and the words sound the same. Anyway, today we're going to be talking about certain scams. Now, as you know, these scams have been around since the beginning of the internet, and we've talked about them in lots of other Old Guard meetings, and they've gone through generations and waves and so on and so forth. And these people are very clever. They find all kinds of ways to break into your stuff and steal things from you, or do what's called social engineering, to try to do phishing with a PH. And you've heard PH, phishing spelled with PH. It means that somebody's trying to pretend they're somebody else and run a scam on you, trying to get you to click on something, thinking it's safe, but it's really them, and they intercept that, and so they fool you into doing something that you shouldn't, and that's dangerous and allows them in. But what I'm going to show you today is some examples of something that has become really common. I see this all the time now, and I see these things come to myself, and I'm kind of savvy about this stuff because I've been studying scams for a lot of years, and it's kind of fun for me. This is kind of an avocation of mine, kind of drilling down on these things to figure out how they all work. And also I'm kind of a helpful kind of person. So when I see these things happening to my friends, I reach out to them, and I can often, first of all, explain to them what's happening to them, and then these scams work because people don't understand what's happening. Despite all the dire warnings from Old Guard. When it comes down to the nitty gritty, they can be fooled because they don't know all of the things to look for, and it keeps changing. It's kind of a moving target. So just over the course of the last year or so, I've helped innumerable people remediate from email-based scams, and they're all variants on a certain theme. This is not a prepared lecture. This is really a tutorial. So I'm going to do screen sharing and walk you through some of these things. And I suppose that you've probably all seen them yourselves. Maybe more of you have been taken in by them. And I'm sure you're all going to want to offer your own experiences and insights into these things. So I'm not planning to talk the whole time, but you can raise your hand if you want as we go. But let me first of all walk through some basic ones. Okay. Fraud contract. Yeah. So there's all that kinds of advice about fraud department, who to contact. That's not what this talk is about. This talk is about the actual scam itself as it's running, and I want you to sort of talk you through it so you understand what is happening to you. Okay. So to do that, I'm going to start by doing screen sharing, which I hope is going to work because my system's been a little bit unstable. If I drop out, stay in there, the meeting will stay live and I can come back in. Um, so first of all, I'm going to screen share email my email app. Screen share. Okay. So I guess you're all seeing my email box right now. So you're gonna say, well, this doesn't look like your email box. Okay, well, that's because this is Thunderbird. Thunderbird is a mail client, and I don't want, I could give a talk about mail clients, and we've done that before, and we'll do it again. I'll just say that Thunderbird is the mail app that is provided by Mozilla, and it's the kind of the sister app to Firefox. And it's been around for a long time, and it's very mature and very reliable, and it has good features and good performance. And the various things I like about it. One is that the user interface is more of a traditional mail app interface. So you've got a window here that shows your the subject lines and the from and the to, and then you can move these things around, and you can sort on the from or subject or other fields. There's a recipient and there's a date field, and you can and the size field, all these things. And then and down below there's a panel which shows the content, the body of the email that you're pointing at. And over on the left is a list of folders, mail folders. So, for instance, here's my main Gmail account. Let's look at it here. And so I've got an inbox, and then I've got subfolders within my inbox. And by the way, these emails that are bold are the ones that just came in this morning. So yes, I get a lot of email, and I flipped through these things pretty quickly. And, managing all your deluge of junk mail is a whole other topic, which we've talked about before and we'll probably talk about again. One thing you might notice about my mail account is that I've got a lot of folders. Not only do I have, let's just look at the basic folders. Well, okay, here's my Gmail inbox. It's really Gmail, and I can see this Gmail account through a web browser. It just as an ordinary native Gmail account using a web browser. But Gmail, we said this many times before, if you want to use a mail client like Outlook, I mean, you could do it with Outlook. This is Thunderbird. My wife uses Outlook. I stopped years ago because I hate Outlook. That's another talk. Thunderbird allows me to view mail that's actually in my Gmail account. It's live in my Gmail account, but Thunderbird provides me a window into my live Gmail account. And the email shows up locally in Thunderbird in more traditional folders. So that's why I have a lot of folders here. And here's a folder. It's on my OldGuard. I have an input mail filter set up at Gmail so that anything that's relating to OldGuard goes directly to my OldGuard folder instead of to my inbox. So input filters, that's part of the tale I'm going to tell you in a minute. The other reason why I like Thunderbird is that besides letting me have a lot of folders in my own, all my Gmail folders or labels show up as folders here, but I can also link one Thunderbird instance to multiple external email accounts. So I actually have, I'm monitoring 20 different mail accounts here. So like here's the OldGuard Gmail account, and again I can see it through my Thunderbird. I don't have to go to Gmail to do that. And my wife's account is here because I look after things for her too. And a little of this and a little of that. So, and by the way, you'll notice that I have an AOL account here, and I also have a Yahoo account down here. And I have those accounts so that I can, not because I want to use Yahoo Mail or AOL Mail, but because I want to be able to know how these apps work so that when friends of mine have questions or their Yahoo email's been broken into, I can go to my Yahoo email account and see what all of the options are and remind myself how they work. Or they're always changing the interface around, so I have to find the option again. But then I can explain it to somebody with direct first-hand knowledge instead of just a hypothetical conversation. So I'm going to show you those accounts in a minute in the context of a couple of these break-ins. But for now, I'm just kind of setting the stage here. So I created a folder called Scams just for this talk, and I created some subfolders, and I've been dragging the scam emails into this folder for some time, so I've got a good collection of sort of examples of things. But for this talk, I created some subfolders and pulled in some specific examples so we can get to them quickly. So I'm talking about type 1. These are all email-based scams that work fundamentally the same way, but the details vary a lot. So I'm talking first about type 1 scams. So this is a typical one. It's from somebody. It appears to be from somebody named Shi Gao. Now that's somebody I know, because Shi Gao is a chemist working for Merck, and I'm the webmaster of the North Jersey section of the American Chemical Society. And it's a big society. We've got about 3,000 members, 3,500 members. And they have an executive board, and Shi Gao is currently the chair of the executive board. So I work with her on the website, I attend their meetings, and so on and so forth. So I know her. She's a great person. And so I've been getting, and she's been on the council for a while, long before she became chair. So I've been getting these ridiculous emails from her and ignoring them, because I look at this email and I can see, first of all, it's not from her, because the from line has her name, but then in angle brackets, if you see an email address like this where there's some words and then something in angle brackets, it means what's in angle brackets is actually the email address it came from, and the stuff to the left is just human readable text, usually the person's name, but it doesn't have to be. Now, when I look in my mail accounts and my mail apps and so on and so forth, I always see from lines that look like this. If there is human readable text, it's displayed to me like this, and with angle brackets, and I see it this way. I don't know whether everybody sees it this way, because there are a lot of mail apps out there that I don't use, or older versions and obsolete versions of things. So that's key. Why is this key? Because I know Shi Gao perfectly well, and I know perfectly well that's not her email address. So it's really easy to send out an email. Anybody could do this. You could send out an email, and you can change what appears in the from line, and you can put other words in front. So, and what does it say? And this is typical of this class of scam emails. Very short subject line, pretty generic. Hello, Paul. And it says, "Good day, Paul, comma, need you to do something for me, space, question mark. Let me know if you are free. Shi Gao." Okay. Well, I already know it's not from her, because I saw that in the email address. Okay. And by the way, the person that's doing the scam doesn't even know her email address. They would have put that in the email if they knew it. So this actually has nothing to do with her. But there's somebody out in the out there amongst the great unwashed people on the internet who knows that there's some sort of a connection between Chi Gao and me. And they know my email address because look, it's sent to me. If I hover, it says paul.tukey@gmail.com. That's my primary email address. They know my email address. And they know that there's someone named Chi Gao that might catch my attention because I probably know her. Well, that's not a big deal because we have this website and she's on the executive council and she's there and I'm there as the webmaster. It's pretty easy for somebody to figure out that, there's that connection between us. So they send this. Good day, Paul. Well, who says good day? They say that in Australia. Maybe they say it somewhere in Europe. Americans. Now, well, she's Chinese. She's actually, an immigrant from China. So she has a Chinese accent and everything. Well, I don't know. Maybe Chinese immigrants would say good day, Paul, but not too likely. It is a comma. And usually it's a comma. You don't capitalize the next letter or you start the. So it's basically grammatically correct, except the punctuation is a little weird. The space between the, before the question mark. And these are all clues that this is not a native speaker of English, even though the spelling is correct and the grammar is correct. Of course, it says need you to do something for me. We all do this to our questions these days. We leave off I, and so we all do this now. We just start with the verb. That's common colloquial internet English now. So no big deal. And I just ignore these things. Except once in a while I get curious and I want to know, well, how does a scam work? Well, obviously there's no link to click, there's no phone number to call. There's no dangerous link. There's no email address except this one. The only thing I could do with this is to reply to it. So, you reply to it once in a while if you're interested and you enjoy this sort of thing. Hi, Chi. Nice to hear from you. What do you need? What do you need me to do for you? And so you can see that if I can bring up the actual date here. Oh, it's probably over here. Yeah, there's the date. I send this on 1/31. Actually, the next day, which is New Year's Day. That was at 7 in the New Year's Eve, and then New Year's Day at 8:46, I get a note back, and actually, this actually looks like a different wave of it because, look, it's her name, but it's a whole different email address out here, and it looks like the first email from a second wave of this. So at any rate, I responded to that one and I said, see it says president, and I said, afraid not, I'll be in a Zoom meeting all morning and not free till 2. These things have got, the threads have gotten a little bit intermixed here, so let me turn on threads here. So this first one, she says, one of these replies says, am in a conference meeting right now. Let's see if I can make this bigger so you can read it. Oh yeah, there we go. You hit Control plus, it makes text bigger in most apps. Control minus makes it smaller. If you can't read this, just jump in and say, okay. Limited phone access. I don't know when the meeting will be wrapped up, and I need you to help me purchase an iTunes/Apple gift card at any nearby grocery store around you. I'll reimburse you once I'm out of the meeting. That was the other one. These things are out of order. Sorry about that. Somehow the mail threads got... I get to the next. I'm seeing multiple duplicates in this email box. Um, I don't know. Maybe I didn't pursue this to the next level. So you see, they're all typically like that. They want you to buy a gift card of some sort. They want you to send it to their relative for and they offer an excuse why they can't do it at that moment. That's the way all of these things work. This class of email scams.
Hey,
Um,
Paul. Hey,
yeah.
Paul. Do you think this is artificial intelligence communicating with you, or do you think there is a person on the other end? And could there be a possibility that it is Hugo?
Um, no, I don't believe this is AI. I believe this is.
It's not even intelligence.
Yeah, right. It's so dumb. It's hard. Hey, I don't want to go off on that tangent, but let me just say the answer to the first question, Thad, although it's a good question, we can talk about it later. That'll just take us off rail here. No, I don't think this is, and I know it's not her. She would not do this. And I know her email. I mean, this is the way these scams work. Now, this is the simplest kind because it didn't even come from her mailbox. Okay. And it's a complete fake and bogus thing. It's hard to believe that anybody who knows Qi Zhao would be taken in by this. It's bad grammar. It's not the way she talks, and it's a stupid request. So I find it hard to believe that people would even waste their time running scams like this. Okay, that's my feeling.
Paul, can I ask a question about this one? As you're doing this and showing this to us, are you actually opening that email, and is that a dangerous thing to do?
Yes, I'm opening the actual emails that they sent me, and my replies and replies back and so on. And let's see, here was another one that I got earlier in February. Are you available this morning? No, it's not harmful to open an email. Never is. Hasn't been for decades. There were problems with dangerous emails a long time ago, and all of the reputable email companies fixed those problems. Just opening email is very safe now. I would say that.
I like to.
I mean, it's hard to say. Yeah, now, I don't want to go off on this philosophical thing. You should never say never. I don't want to go there right now. I want to keep showing the scam, okay? Unless you have something that's directly relevant to this scam.
Thunderbird allows the option of looking at the text only before downloading any images, which can reduce.
Yeah, I'm going to get to that later, okay? I'm not offering advice yet. I haven't got to that. It's just explaining how these scams work, okay? We'll get to the advice part later.
I have
Sorry
a
to blow
question.
you away, but we'll never get to the end if we start having
Can I
side
ask you a
conversations.
question?
Sure.
Before you had a calendar view on the right margin, how did you get that?
That really is not part of this talk. So ask me offline, or at the end. That's completely a tangent. Has nothing to do with this. So so that was the ones I got from Key. Steve, there was something involving Steve. See, I don't know if he got one of those or not. Here's another example. Tom Forager. I've had several emails from Tom Forager. Oh, wow, that's interesting. You know Tom. He could be on this call right now. Tom, are you there? Say hello. I don't know if he was at the meeting this morning. Anyway, so what are these? Look at this.
Yes, I am on the call.
Okay, Tom, so look. It looks like it came from Tom. The from in my mailbox says Tom Forager. But then, I look at the email. It's not from Tom. It's from Blunderwood at my.chattanoogastate.edu. And Tom had nothing to do with it. But somebody...
Paul, that's my alternate email address.
Oh, that is? Oh, so
No.
this was?
No.
Okay. Yeah. That's funny. Okay, so look, I know it. If Tom has multiple email addresses in the world because one is Chattanooga State. That's Chattanooga, Tennessee, or something. He has an email in Tennessee. He has an email in Brazil. He has an email address in PT, wherever that is. And so the point I'm making here is that most of these scams are run from abroad. That's key. because that's one reason it's so hard to control. The authorities have no reach in these countries. There's nothing they can do, even if they want to help you. You can't go after these people, even if they've stolen money from you. So, anyways, I've gotten all these emails purportedly from Tom, but look at them. What are these things? Now, it is possibly dangerous to open a web page. There's something called a drive-by website. I think they still exist. That just opening the homepage could be dangerous. Now, it might depend on whether certain vulnerabilities have been patched in your computer and whether you're up to date with all of your updates and blah, 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 blah. We've talked about all that stuff before, but no, I'm not going to click on a bogus link. Instead of, I'm happy to open the email, I'm not going to click on a bogus link. And these are all different. And now they're trying to entice me with photographs of naked women. That's usually what they're talking about. So anyway, I just ignore those, okay? And I don't even bother to tell Tom. What's the point? There's nothing he can do about it.
Hey, Paul, I do have a question. What
Okay.
happens if you do click on one of these things that you were tricked into doing it? What's the very next step you should do?
Well, I would say, and I have once or twice, these are so stupid and obvious, duh. You get what you deserve if you click that link, let me tell you.
Yeah, but I did.
But let me, no, okay, so look,
Paul,
listen,
I did
no,
get a
I'll
link.
answer, Ted, I will answer your question.
All
There
right.
are times when you get an email and it does fool you briefly. Maybe you're blurry-eyed and tired and you're not paying that much attention, but it looks more plausible than this, and you think it's something else and you click on it. Okay, and you get there, and who knows what happens when you get there. Sometimes it's obvious immediately that, oh my God, you're in a bad place, because of the crap that's suddenly flashing in your face. Sometimes it starts looking like an ordinary place, but you realize that you shouldn't have gone there. So what do? You quickly close that browser to just, instantly close that browser. So, I don't think all of these attacks can happen instantly. So sometimes it takes a minute or two for the full payload to be delivered to your computer. So at the very least, you first of all, you click out of that web page, close your web browser, and then immediately run a full scan of Malwarebytes. That's my recommendation. Now, we could talk about what other software you could use for that, but the point is I do a full scan if I think there's a possibility that my system has been compromised. That's what I do. That's the answer to the question.
All right, thanks, Paul. And I've done that, but I still have on my desktop something that I don't know what the heck it is. None of my virus things have found it, but I am so slow.
That's a talk for another day.
All right, well,
I hate to cut you off, but if there's time at the end, we can get back to that, okay?
yeah, no problem.
Okay,
All
so
right, thanks for your answer.
so there's the Forager one, and here's another one, Lauren Castelli. This one doesn't even have any words in it, just a bit.ly. You know what bit.ly is? It's a URL redirector. So you have no idea where that's going to take you, and the only way you can find it is by actually clicking it. Actually, I have a way of opening a URL like that on a Unix server without a web browser, and so I can see the code that downloads when I open that URL. But that's, again, a talk for another day. The only thing I can say about these two, and Chi Zhao and Tom Ford, these people somehow know that I, Paul Tukey, have some connection to these people, else they wouldn't be sending me things with people's names that I would recognize. So, but that's public information, so, Okay, now here's one that's very similar, and it's really the same, but I thought I had, oh, here we go. So there's our church in Christchurch in Summit. And we got a blast email to all the members of the church a week or two ago. and it's from Brenda, who's the church office manager, and staff uses her to send out blast emails. They all send her emails and they say, send this out for me. So they're all from Brenda, and she always puts herself in the to line. She uses BCCs, pretty standard thing. So it's really from the Reverend Chuck Rush. And look what it says. It seems that my email has been compromised. Please keep an eye out. Disregard and report a suspicious email that appears to be coming from me. The subject is blessings coming from this email address, christianlifecare@gmail.com. It looks like this. And so, again, it says his name and it has an email address that has nothing to do with his email address. And we all know his email address. And he always uses either at christchurchsummit.org or at ccsnj, which are aliases. And this would never come from this email address. Nevertheless, but he's raising the alarm with 500 people because his email has been compromised. So I write back and I say, hey, Chuck, I don't see any evidence that your email's been compromised because it didn't come from his email box. So I said, the email below is not evidence of that. I could elaborate. Now, Chuck Rush, probably typical of senior ministers, he's not a very technical guy, but he thinks he is. And he picks up a lot of technical jargon and he sprinkles his talk with it so to make him sound credible, but he doesn't really understand much about what's going on when it comes to things like this. And I asked, how did it come to your attention? I didn't receive one of these bogus emails. Did someone you know contact you and give you a copy of the bogus email? And so he says, yes, Danny Ruffalo and Lori Ruffalo. Well, Danny is Lori's son, and he's a really great jazz musician, a young guy. Maybe we'll get him to entertain Olgard sometime. A very good friend. These are both very good friends of mine. So, thanks. I'll check with them. So, so I actually did reply to him. These things seem to be out of order again, but I contacted Lori, and she says, okay, here's the email that she received, the scam email, again, from Christian Life, and here's the actual body, which was not in Brenda's email. How are you doing? Do you have a moment I request? I need you, lowercase I, raise a red flag. I need you to handle discreetly. I am going to a meeting, no calls, so just reply to my email. I would be glad if you reply to this email as soon as it gets to you. Peace and blessings. But it's going to go to christianlifecare@gmail.com. So what is that? So Danny, who's he's pretty technically savvy himself, so he did actually reply to that to see what the next layer of that scam was. And he got one of these emails that, gave his hard luck story and asked him to buy some gift cards and da-da-da. The same kind of payload. But I also, having told Chuck that, it didn't look to me like there was an actual scam here, or that his email was compromised. And I said, I checked with them. I did check that. I also asked him, after I told him that I didn't think his thing was actually compromised, he said, I contacted the IT guys. He has some IT guys. There's an IT outside contractor that he pays. And so these people are not members of the church. They're not monitoring all this stuff unless he reaches out to them. And he says, these aren't just phishing. There is defamation involved here. If I actually sent an email like that, a parishioner could report me for abrogation of boundaries. It is the kind of thing we take classes on to avoid within the United Church of Christ. Oh my God. This is an incredibly overblown reaction to a trivial, common, garden variety, stupid scam that we all get all the time. And so what surprises me is, what universe has he been living in lately that in 2022 he gets one of these ridiculous things and suddenly, is going ballistic. I mean, duh. So anyway, so he said he handed it off to his IT guys and they're going to do something about it, or did something about it. Well, I waited a few days and then I sent an email to that address, and sure enough, I got back one of these stupid replies. But it showed to me that their IT guys, if they were going to contact Gmail and complain, but if they did, say christianlifegmail.com, if they did, Gmail didn't do anything about it because this, they were still using this email address, days later, whatever. So there is the danger of overreacting and suddenly raising the alarm with hundreds of people. Oh, and by the way, as it turns out, I contacted a number of other people, the friends in the church, and not a single other person got this scam email. It was only Lori and Danny. So Chuck didn't even bother to check whether it went to a lot of people, but he sends out this alarming email to, 500 people.
Well, Paul, I need to ask you this on a follow-up. You're technically proficient and you answer these emails. For those of us who are not that technically proficient, when you answer the email, doesn't it serve that scammer to know that you're a live person and you're answering emails, so they sell it to 1,000 other people, and pretty soon we're going to get emails from scammers as many as you have here.
No.
And
No,
it'll flood out.
Marvin, I know what you're saying. That was the prevalent theory a long time ago, like 10, 20 years ago. That's what we all said to each other. I don't believe it's true anymore. These scammers all have your email. It's out there. They already share it amongst themselves, and there are thousands. There's not one person doing this. There's a little bit of variety. There are thousands of people doing these things. This is decentralized. Like, to Thad's question, it's not one big AI machine in the sky. This is decentralized. If anything, it's sort of franchised to all the local scammers. They all have your email address. And they don't give a damn whether they know you're a live person or not. They already know you're probably a live person because it didn't bounce. You're not revealing anything about yourself to answer it. But I would not recommend that you do this because I assume you have better things to do with your day than pursue these things. I do it because it's a hobby of mine. But unless you find this an entertaining thing to do, you're not going to learn anything useful. You're not going to send them any money. You're not going to buy any. I mean, maybe you'll play them along for a couple of iterations and then, do a thumb in your eye kind of email. Ha ha ha! I knew it was a scam the whole time. Maybe get some satisfaction out of that. But no, is there entertainment value in following up on it? Not really. I mean, if you want to send it to me, I'll follow up on it. But anyway. You get the point. But this is still the harmless kind because they don't know your email address. But let's get to the others now. And these are the ones, the type 2. And these are the ones that you do have to worry about. Now, I want to start with this simple one. Kathy Tatlow has been a good long-time friend. Actually, her husband, Mike Tatlow, was a member of Old Guard a long time ago. And he dropped his membership, but he's passed away now. But we're still good friends through the Summit College Club, and my wife's a member, and we get together for meals once a month and so on and so forth. So you can see that in August 2021, I get this email from Kathy Tatlow. Favor to ask to Microsoft Office? I don't know. But anyway, you might say, well, why did I get that email? I don't see myself. So maybe Kathy was sending email, and maybe that's also, I'm not sure why would anybody would send it, but maybe she was sending it to, why would she send me an email without me in the to line? I mean, already this is bogus. But anyway, but I look at this and I know that is her email address. This email came from her mail account. Now, you might say, well, why did it come to me? I'm not seeing enough header lines to know. Okay, so you all probably know that you usually only see about 3 or 4 header lines. But the email object that arrived at your computer has about 150 header lines in it, all kinds of information. But only a small number of those are meant for human beings to read. So, but as Thad or somebody was saying before, look, or maybe Walt was saying this, every one of these modern email programs let you, one way or another, look at the source. And there's different words. It could be the text of the email, the full text, the source, or whatever. So this is the actual data object that gets sent from an email server to your email account. And it's got the full information in it. Well, the first line shows who it was actually delivered, the mail account it was actually delivered to.
Oh, we don't see anything other than the general information,
Okay,
not the specific.
okay, so what I'm going to do now, because I want to show some things in other, browser or whatever, I'm going to stop the screen share here and start it again. And this time, screen share my whole desktop, let's say. Okay. Are you seeing that?
Yes.
And you see me moving this window?
Yes.
You see, yeah, that says source of IMAP. Okay, so I'm gonna hit plus. So, there are all these header lines, and you can learn a lot if you care to learn how to do this stuff. So, but it was delivered to me, and I have multiple email addresses, so I'm curious to know which of my email accounts it came in on. They all feed into the same account, but this one was delivered directly from Kathy Tatlow's email account down here. And it was also sent to this Microsoft Office account. Doesn't have her name on it. Seems a little weird. I don't know why. And you can trace any other mail servers that it went through, and sometimes you can find out a lot about these emails by looking at the source code. So I just innocently respond. Hi, Kathy. Yes, I have an Amazon account. What can I do for you? And now I get a reply back. And this also comes from her email account. And you see, it was 2 o'clock it was sent. I replied at 5:30. And this is the middle of August. And Kathy replies back at 3 minutes later. Kathy replies 3 minutes later. Good to hear from you. I've been trying to purchase $200 Amazon gift card, but it says they're having issues charging my card. I contacted my blah, 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 blah. He's trying to buy it. My niece's birthday is today. One of these typical stories. They're all different. So they're a little bit entertaining. Maybe that's the reason for doing this, because the little vignettes they tell you are a little bit entertaining. My niece, email, get back to you. Thanks. So I say, sorry to hear your troubles. Sure, I could do that. Sure, I could do that for me. Oh, I meant to say for you. What are the details? And I hear back again. Here is my niece email address. Not niece's, niece email address. Larishula at outlook.com. And there are curly brackets around it. No English speaking American, whatever, put curly brackets around the email address. Maybe angle brackets, not curly brackets, a space, and I want you, the I's not capitalized, right? Happy birthday, niece, in the message space. Let me know if you made the offer. So there's still a question of, I don't remember if I followed through on this another couple of iterations. I have the feeling, by the way, I was trying to dredge up these emails for this talk today, and I carefully squirrel these things away in my various Gmail folders. And today, some of them I could not find, and I'm really good at finding things in my Gmail box. And I believe that Google has been deleting some of these scam emails that are sitting in my mailboxes. Once they're sort of doing more data mining afterwards, and they're fingering scam emails that are sitting around, and they just, without notice, deleting them from people's mailboxes. Now, as far as that annoys me, because I think that's my email after I received it, and they're cavalierly just deleting it. So anyway, so that was one. So now here's another one. Oh, and by the way, I called Kathy. I mean, of course you call the person, but you can't send them email, right? and she has this house at the shore, and she was back for doing a few errands and was going to go back to the shore and wasn't reading her email. And I said, Kathy, as far as I can tell, this person is still logging into your email account and responding to these emails. And by the way, it's dangerous to have people logging into your email account because, first of all, they could cause damage. They could change your password so you couldn't get in, and then they could, have their way with your email. They could send blast email, like apparently they did to all her contacts, and then they could delete all your contacts, so you couldn't send a follow-up warning to your friends. They might delete all your email in the folders for the same reason. Now, interestingly, with this particular variant of this scam, and as I say, this thing has its origins in earlier scams, these kinds of scammers used to do those nasty and painful things to the victim. But nowadays, they don't. And all of these scams that I'm showing you, they don't. They do break into mailboxes, and they don't touch anything. They don't delete anything. And so you might ask, well, why would they do that? And my theory is this, that as people use email all the time, if somebody changes your password, you panic instantly, and you call tech support at that mail company. And you get tech support on the case. And they take quick action because it's really bad for them to have their customers' accounts hacked like this. And so there'll be quick follow-up action if they do any obvious damage. I think they would rather have the owner of the account be blissfully unaware that this is going on, at least for a couple of days, so that the scam can run its course, and they'll pick up any suckers that might be inclined to reply. So, but anyway, so here's another variant, and now this is getting into the nitty-gritty, and this is what I've seen happen to a number of Old Guard people recently. And this particular example is not an Old Guard person, Ken Grispin. I want to get him to join Old Guard sometime, but he's a recently retired Union County judge. Knows all the people that we've been seeing lately really well, because they all work together. The Supreme Court Justice and Bill Daniel the other day, and but unfortunately he's doing remediation cases now that he's retired, and so he's busy on Tuesday mornings. But anyway, look at this from Kenneth Grispin at Comcast.net, and that is his email address. I know that to be true. Favor to ask. We've seen that line before. Hello. Need a favor from you? He wouldn't say hello to me. Need a favor from you, comma, no space. Do you have an account with Amazon? Bad grammar, punctuation. Thanks. But the other thing I look at that I see instantly when I see this email is there's a reply to line. Now, what is that? This is a feature that's been available in email for decades and decades, ever since the current modern email standards were developed, and there were standard-setting bodies that defined what an email object will look like that gets sent, and it should have a from line and a to line and a reply and a subject line and all these other lines, and also it should optionally have a reply-to line. This has been a feature, and I've never quite understood why that was put into the standards. But the way it works is that if you send an email to somebody and you put a different email address in the reply to field, and if somebody responds to that, their reply will not go to the sender, but to the reply to field, the address in the reply to field. I don't know, somebody else knows more than me, or something, and we could Google this. Well, why is that there? There must have been a reason for it way back in the midst of time. The only theory I've ever come up with is that if you are high enough executive in a company, you have an executive assistant who actually reads all your email for you and scans it for interesting stuff. And so you don't read your own email until your assistant brings it to you. So, but you want it to look like it comes from you, and yet the replies go to somebody else. Sorry?
This is George. I have an answer to that. There really is a good reason for the reply to line, and that's if you're changing email addresses. What happens is going from one to another, the people who are using your old email address will now reply to the new email address.
Okay, got it. Okay, that's a good, and so years ago that would be a good way to do that. Now, no, it's been a long, this has become a vestigial thing. That's not how people, change their email addresses and tell other people. And
actually, I think a lot of them have stopped allowing it.
I was going to say that, George. I was going to say that between when this happened in July of 2021, just a few months ago, and when I went back to my Comcast, I actually have a real Comcast email address which I use a lot, and I could not find the reply to field when I go through a web browser. It's not there anymore. In fact, I look at my AOL account and my Yahoo account, and that option seems to have gone away. Just as Georgia said, these companies finally woke up and smelled the coffee and realized that vestigial feature was being used heavily by these scammers, and so they've deleted them. Thank goodness. I don't know why they didn't do that a long time ago, but they seem to be doing some good out there. So thank you very much, email providers. Anyway, it was functioning then. And here's the thing. The from is his email address. The reply to is very plausible. KennethGrispin@gmail.com. And I think it is very unlikely that Ken, first of all, would create a Gmail account and then use a reply to field. So the point of this version of the scam is it does come from Ken's email box. So I believe it because I know his email address. And I hit reply. I think it's going to him, but it's really going to this reply to field. I'm not even sure that everybody's receiving email app will even show the reply to field if it is present. So this scammer might be able to silently siphon off any replies to this email without Ken knowing, because it's not going to his replies are not going to him. They're going to this person. So the way this works, the way this scam has to work, is that somebody figures out how to break into Ken's Comcast mail. Okay. And we know, we've heard about how the dark web works. There are some bad actors out there who specialize in breaking into email accounts and cracking passwords. They use big computers and they do millions of them at a time and blah, blah, blah. So that's their business. They crack email accounts. But they don't run scams. They don't specialize in running scams, bilking people out of money, or any of that. So what they do is they sell those cracked mail accounts to other bad actors who specialize in the other activities. And some of them are these people who do this kind of scam. Now, thank goodness it's this kind of scam, because even though now this person that's running this scam has access to Ken's mail, and this is a retired judge, and he's got a lot of assets, and and somebody could get into his email box and possibly, find emails and figure out how to do password reset operations on Ken's other online accounts and get into his accounts that have money, or that he, storing accounts, he could buy things on credit. he could steal money from Ken, but they don't seem to be doing it. That would be a different class of bad actors that they might also buy hacked email accounts from this first class and run those kinds of scams. But these scams are not doing that. They're just looking for suckers who are willing to buy some gift cards. And by the way, it's usually several $100s of gift cards. And the online ones, I suppose you just get back some sort of a serial number and then you can use that to cash it in. The physical ones that you're supposed to buy in the drugstore are probably like New Jersey lottery cards that you scratch off some stuff and you see a number underneath, and with that number you can get the payment. So the first stage of this scam is that somebody hacks into an email account. And then the second stage is that the person running the scam goes and creates a new email account somewhere else at a free email service where it's very easy and untraceable. And so somebody created this one. And then they set up this email, and they're going to have the replies siphoned off to this new email account, which belongs to the scammer. Now, of course, I did call Ken. And of course, he doesn't have this Gmail account, no. But I did also reply to the scammer. And so again, the same thing. Yeah, I can do it in a little while, What's your niece's name? How do I whatever. And then Lizanne, his wife, and I explained how this worked. So what do you have to do if you're hit with this scam? Oh, well, let me say one more thing. And there are two ways that these scammers siphon off replies. One is the reply to. So this scammer doesn't ever have to log in to Ken's account again, because even if Ken immediately realizes, because he got a phone call from me and he changes his password, the scammer can't get back in, he's still going to get some replies from suckers who just hit reply to the original email because they're going to a different place, until Ken logs into his email account and deletes that entry in the reply to field, which Ken then did because I told him he ought to do that. Okay, so that's one way it works. And then the other way is Xfinity. So Xfinity is Comcast, and oh yeah. Somehow it's failing to remember my password. I thought I could get here quickly. Here we go. Oh. Maybe I have to start over again. That's a security feature. That account had timed out, and they're not letting me reuse it. So, but anyway, I got in directly here, and I go to my mail. Hope you're seeing all this. Do you see what I'm doing? And loading my email account. Looks. Increase the point size. There's nothing in the inbox. Sent, spam, trash, my folders. Okay, I don't actually have any email. And why is that? This is still an active email address for me, because I had used it in a lot of store accounts and everything. It's really hard to undo that, as George was saying. But look at this. For every email account, somewhere you will find settings. So if you ever see a cogwheel, that is the icon for settings. Sometimes it'd be the word settings, and sometimes it'd be on left, or right, top, bottom, whatever. Anyway, you go to email settings, and what do I see? I don't see a reply to field anymore. I think that's gone. I looked hard last night for it. I think that's gone since July. I can make filters. So I could make a filter that says replies. I could add a condition. I could say if the subject line does not contain XXXXX, we'll call this an XXXXX filter. I could say add an action, and I could say redirect the email to the scammer at gmail.com. So that was basically all mail, because no mail has X's in the subject line. And there are other ways to get at something equivalent. But the point is, I could create an input filter that sends it to the scammer. And so Ken would never see the replies. Or, look at this. I could add another action, and I could say, keep it. So a copy will stay in Ken's email box, and the scammer will get a copy. So he'll be eavesdropping on all of Ken's email. No longer has access to his mail folders and contact lists. He already sent the big blast email to all of his friends. He doesn't need that list anymore. He's not going to do any follow-ups. So then I thought I was about to test this all, and I didn't say save, because what I discovered with Xfinity, there's also an auto forward feature. And this is what I actually have turned on. All my incoming mail gets immediately forwarded to my Gmail account. It doesn't even stay here. But I'm just saying that a scammer could either get all of your email somewhere else if he put this filter on, or he could just listen and eavesdrop, which would be more of the kind of thing he wants to do, because he doesn't want to disturb Ken. And this is a big point. With this type of scam, the owner of the email account in question is not the target of the scam. If anything, the scammer wants that person to be totally unaware that it's happening and suffers no damage or pain. The victims are us, the friends of that owner. We're the victims. Okay. So, oh God, somebody's trying to call me. What is this? That's actually Xfinity sending me authentication messages because I logged in again. So, I don't know. I've got other examples. You know, so Bob Pipchick, he's a member, but he hasn't been attending since the shutdown because he's been busy working for the Union County organization, running their COVID tent over, COVID services. First they were doing masks and tests and then vaccinations and over at Union County College or something like that. But again, checking in, how are you doing? Can I ask you a favor? So I called Bob and, went through the usual thing. What can I do for you? And I never bought a Google Play card. What kind of store sells them? Oh, thanks. What we need is $500 and $100 denominations. You can buy from any store around. Also, I need you to scratch the back of the card to reveal the pins. Take that snapshot of the back showing the pins and have them sent to me. Maybe there's even a barcode back there. You take a picture of that for them. Anyway, I called Bob, explained what he had to do, and then he did the remediation. We had Herb Waddell was hacked this way in October 11th. Now, I couldn't find. This is one that it seems to have been deleted. I could not find the 0th email in this attack, the one that I actually received from Herb. I only have my follow-up to Herb. And so I can't tell you exactly how this one worked, but and I called him, and and he was concerned and took it seriously, but he couldn't do anything about it at that point because he was busy packing, and he and his son Steve Waddell, who's also a member, were going to be driving out to their homestead near Niagara Falls, some sort of family reunion, and he just couldn't deal with this until he got back. And so after he did get back, Steve helped him, and his wife Lisa, and they cleaned it up and they did the remediation for him. So that was fine. Joe Geist was hacked, and this one, Happy New Year. I hope this finds you well. It's as late as 25th of January, a little late for a Happy New Year, but I hope she's finding well. A typical kind of crappy email that Joe would never write. And, but I see that Joe Geist's, there's no reply to field here, so they didn't use that method. And if I bring up the OLGARD database and quickly look up Joe Geist, I think we'll find that that his email address is jgeist@aol.com. Oh no, there is a reply to, and his email, his true email address is aol.com. So it came from his actual mailbox. Again, I checked that, and there's a reply to. And yet the reply to field seems to be gone from AOL too. You can see I opened my AOL mail and I can't see it anymore. But I called and left messages. He didn't answer the phone, and I called back and left messages and didn't hear from him for a while. When he finally got around to replying, turns out what I did was I sent an email. I sent an email to Joe's actual email address, okay? But as an innocent victim of the scam. And, well, okay, so that had the reply to, so my reply went to the scammer, and then I did finally reply to. So sometimes what I do is I will reply to the actual email box after a while, and not allow the reply to field. That's optional when you send the mail. You can delete it, and to see whether the scammer is still maybe has a forwarding filter on their end, or whether they're still logging into that person's mailbox and they haven't remediated the scam yet. And I can do that for a while. I did that actually for a while with Herbs, and then after a while it stopped going through. So then I knew he had it fixed. So what happened with Joe, though, and this sort of explained the consequences of these things. I wasn't the first person to call Joe. Somebody beat me to it, and so Joe knew that his email was hacked, and so his immediate instinct was, well, to call AOL, but he probably rightfully realized he'd be on hold for a long time, listening to a lot of waiting music. So he decides he ought to hire professionals to fix this. So Joe went online. I talked to him afterwards. He went online and Googled to find a company that would do, I don't know what terms he used, that would somehow correct email scams or something like this. And he chose one, and he happened to choose a company called Network Solutions. And he told me that he called them, and they said, "Oh yes, oh, we'll be glad to do that. You know, we can fix that for you, and we'll sign up. You don't have to sign up for our service, and this is only part of the service you'll get from us, and it's $99. I don't know if he said it. I mean, it was $199. I don't know if it was 1 year or 2 years. He signed up for their service. Now, we've talked about this kind of thing in the past, where the scam is really to get you to sign up for some bogus service. But that's not what these scams are about. And they did. They fixed his computer, and they set him up with a subscription, and they're gonna keep him safe for a year or for 2 years, and he'll probably renew his subscription. So I think when he first said, I just chose somebody at random from doing a Google search, I thought, oh my God. And then when I heard what company it is, I thought, Joe, you did good. I don't know if some of you, I'm sure, have heard of Network Solutions. It's also called NetSol. They have that short name. Now, Network Solutions is a company that's been around for a long time. It's a very reputable and solid company. In the very beginning of the World Wide Web, or the internet, there were domains. There weren't very many of them. There was an IP address, and then you could register a domain name and associate it with your IP address. And then that could be used, for Gmail. And it could also be used to create a website. And in the beginning, the internet was really small, and there was one company that had the franchise from the consortium governing body to be the registrar for domain names, and that company was Network Solutions. Well, this was a cash cow for them, because it turned out the internet exploded, and there was a lot of business, and it's not very expensive to provide the service. I mean, you have to deal with security and da-da-da. It was a very profitable business. And there was a company called SAIC, which bought them, because they buy a lot of companies, and they bought Bellcore while I was employed there, the spinoff from Bell Labs. And so SAIC was my parent company as well for a while, and Network Solutions was a sister company. and eventually they spun off Bellcore, and they also spun off Network Solutions, and it's independent now, but it's very reputable. And so, it was a good thing for Joe to do. If he had gotten my phone call first, I might have saved him the cost of buying that service, because I would have remediated it for him. And by the way, also done, a cleanup step by running if he would let me log over to his computer using a remote screen share app, and a lot of people will let me do that. I can do the work myself, explain to them what I'm doing, I could have cleaned it up. So he paid somebody to do it, and I don't charge. But he got something else for his money, and, he's got an ongoing service, and, he's got his computing environment is safer because he has a solid company signed up. So I said I wasn't going to do all the talking, but I've been rambling on and on. I think I've hit most of the high points. And by the way, my offer is out there. If you get hacked and you want some advice, just dial me up. So at this point, do we want to do any discussion? There is
Discussion or questions? Edward Atkin has his hand up, and Rogers just went up. So Ed, are you on? I just have his name. I don't have his screen, his tile.
Yeah, he might
Roger,
have wandered off.
why don't you go?
Roger,
How do these emails get through to your emails? That's my question. How can they get through, like some of those address things that you showed?
Okay, so that's the big unanswered question, Ed. How do people hack into email accounts? And there's no way to know how a particular email account was hacked. Usually there's no way to know. But we've talked about this in OGARD. I mean, how are these things done? What are the main methods that are used? And we don't have time to go through that now. Maybe we should do that session again. We've done it before, but it's always an interesting discussion at TUG, and new insights, new methods, and so on come along. But I will, the two simple and obvious answers are: somebody has a very trivial password. Most of the email companies don't allow you to have trivial passwords anymore, but maybe somebody's got something that's just over the threshold of complexity, but is still pretty trivial. I don't know. So it's sort of a direct attack on decrypting passwords, and it can work with trivial passwords. Another obvious way is some people unwisely use the same password everywhere. So if you use your email password and you also use it to sign up for some little online company where you want to buy a widget, right? And they say, okay, give us your email address and create a password and we'll create a little account for you. Well, you give them your email address and you give them a password, which is actually your email account's password. You just gave them the login credentials to your email account. Now you say, well, it's a reputable company. They just want to sell me something. They're not in the business of cracking emails. And I say, are you sure? That could be a front business. And by the way, even if they're honest, they're probably a small enough company. They probably don't have very good computer security themselves. And all of their accounts could be hacked by professionals and they get all of your credentials and suddenly they're being sold on the dark web to everybody. So, I mean, the answer is there's several ways these things are done and it's all very interesting, but that's enough to say today, okay?
Okay, thanks.
Roger.
Paul, yes, I have a real problem that began yesterday. My AOL, when I send an email in AOL, instead of it displaying my name at the recipient, it's coming up with the letter NYT in lowercase. And I tried changing my password. I tried rebooting. And if I even send an email to myself, even though I click my correct name as where it's going, it comes to me showing it came from NYT. And now I also have a Gmail account. And I used that yesterday or this morning, and that does not do it. So it's someone got into my AOL, and I think I know what had happened. Sunday, we visited some folks in Pennsylvania, and we gave them a gift certificate for their 60th birthday or wedding anniversary. They didn't know where the place was, so I went online yesterday. I looked up the hotel, and they had a thing that said, directions. So I said yes. And I put in the address of the people we gave it to, and then the hotel, gave us a little map. And it was after I sent that this happened. So I suspect that maybe when I accessed that map, somehow that's how the NYT thing got in my system.
Hey, Roger, that sounds really interesting and fun.
Yeah.
I would love to explore that one because it sounds like something new to me. So let's talk about that offline.
Well, okay.
There's no simple answer. I don't know the answer, but maybe,
Well,
I think
I do. I am a paying AOL customer, so I can get text service from them. So
yeah.
Okay.
Well, maybe in a paying account you have a reply to field. I don't know. I don't have a paying account.
Whatever.
Anyway, let's take that one offline. Be glad to help you.
Yep.
There's one more. Oh, somebody else has their hand up?
Yeah, there's 4 or 5 hands up. Walt Meister would be next.
Let me just interrupt. There is one I want to just say a few words about. I'll do this one quickly. Haas Compton's email was hacked this way. And as a result of that, everybody in in OldGuard got a bogus email from Sri's account asking for, like these others that you probably don't even remember, but we all got it. And why would everybody in OldGuard get an email like that if Sri's email was hacked? Now, I would, because I'd be in his contact list because we exchange emails and but everybody in OldGuard. And the reason was this, that Sri had done something he shouldn't have done, and you probably heard about this. But there was one blast email I sent out many months ago where I accidentally put everybody's email address in the CC line instead of the BCC line. I immediately realized the error, and I immediately sent another email instructing everybody to immediately delete the email they just got from me and read this one instead, which is the same email. Well, everybody did that, I'm sure, and or maybe not, but they didn't pay attention. But Sri, being pretty technical, he realized that there were all the email addresses of all the OldGuard members, and he was able to snarf them out of that email that was sent to him by mistake and put them aside, maybe in an Excel spreadsheet. And then one day he wanted to send a blast email to everybody, and he didn't want to have us send it for him. He just wanted to do it himself. So without authorization or knowledge of us, he sent a blast email to all of our members. You know, he was trying to get people signed up for his Socrates forum or something, but he didn't want to go through Olcott channels. And I quickly realized what was going on because there were a couple of email addresses that got that bogus blast email, and there is no way that those email addresses would have been on Sri's computer, because the erroneous one I sent was months earlier. One was a newer member of Old Guard, Jim Blinn, who had joined in the meantime, and another one is Julie Lung, who's our production assistant for the Bulletin. And you know, I send blast emails to her, so because she's working with us on the stuff, but she's not in any of our directories or anything. So anyway. So another unintended consequence, of doing unauthorized blast emails is that your own computer can get hacked, and suddenly all of these people are having all their emails exposed to the bad guys. So that actually happened with Sri. Sorry to go into all of that, but anyway. So who's next?
Walt Meissner.
Yes. I'd like to thank you for doing a very good presentation here. Even though I know quite a bit of stuff, I did learn a few things new. You know, I learned how to get a thread on Thunderbird. I figured out how to put the calendar in, and also how to get the source text of the email.
Hey, Walt,
can be useful.
Quick interruption. Come to the next Tug session. It's going to be all about email threads. Go on.
Okay. Somebody told me a story just the other day that I found extremely scary. And now this is a person, you know, he's got an engineering degree, he's retired, he works with me doing taxes. He's extremely knowledgeable about everything in taxes, and, you know, and he pulled me aside. He said he was locked out of his home desktop computer and he couldn't log in, and there was a message on the screen that says, Microsoft detected you know, like a virus on your computer. We're locking your computer out. Please call this number.
Yeah.
Now he was like 99% convinced it was Microsoft, and he called the number, and they told him he'd be locked out for 24 hours, and afterwards he'll have access to it again. And sure enough, the next day he did have access to it again. But so he asked me if Microsoft could actually do this, and you know, being that, you know, they come out with more and more security features I really didn't know, and I Googled it, and no, there's really a bunch of scams out there that do exactly that. And I sent them email on that, and I talked to them the next day, and I said, you know, what happened to your computer? Is everything there? What did they do? Did they take anything? And he said everything's there. He didn't know what they took. And of course, he does have things like social security number and date of birth and names there. And he called up all his financial accounts, told them what happened, and also changed his password on all his financial accounts, changed his password on his computer. But he did end up buying a brand new Windows 11 laptop. But I found this like extremely scary. He has no idea what he did to make this happen. And, you know, do you have anything to add to that, or anybody?
Well, one tiny thing I would add. First of all, I don't believe that Microsoft would ever do that way and say you have to call this number. But even if I were inclined to call the number, I would be inclined to, first of all, log in on my wife's computer, because I couldn't get to mine, and Google the number. And almost always, the numbers that are associated with these scams are well-known numbers used by scammers. Because phone numbers, unlike Google accounts, are not cheap and quick and easy to get and throw away. So they get the bank of numbers, and they reuse them a lot over a period of time. So you can look up all the past scams that have been run with that same phone number, and you quickly convince yourself, no, that's not Microsoft.
Well, being that this already transpired and he called the number,
I know, but
What
this is
should
a
it be-
learning. This is a
what should
learning
it be
thing
doing
here.
now? What should it be doing
I'm
now?
saying, no, this is a general point I'm making. Don't ever call a phone number. If it looks bogus, it probably is. But if you want to be sure it's bogus, just Google it, okay? That's my advice to everybody all the time. But now, of course, I don't know what happened. I mean, you take a thing like that, and it takes a lot of work to figure out what happened. Yeah, forensics, you know. I'm not even sure I could figure it out.
He could be a victim of identity theft. Maybe you should have like LifeLock activated.
I
something
totally
like that.
agree. It's scary. It sounds like just the beginning, not the end of his troubles. And you might not find out about identity theft. You know, these people can gather all this information. As I say, some people specialize in break-ins and stealing information, and then they sell that on the dark web. And other people specialize in doing identity theft and scams and emptying bank accounts. Those are different skills, different skill sets, as they say. And the worst may yet come for him. That's scary.
It could be months or years away.
Could be.
Okay.
Al?
Paul, I just want to compliment you on this session. It's been very interesting, informative, and valuable.
Thanks.
One thing I noticed with your first example from Xi is I got a very personalized message from the Dean of Engineering at Columbia along those lines, late one evening saying, I forgot to send so-and-so a gift. Could you send gift cards? And the first time I got this, I said, is this for real? But since I know the dean very well, I sent a message to somebody else at Columbia and said, did you also get this message as the dean at such and such a place? And they informed me this was a scam. Don't do it.
Yeah.
So I think the more informed we are, the better off we'll be. So keep this up.
That's why we did this session.
Yeah, these are not theoretical things. Sometimes we talk about things in a theoretical way. These are happening as we speak. So pay attention and communicate with us and others around.
Griff is up next.
Hi, I get a fair amount of email that I don't really want, and a number of them say, if you don't really want this kind of stuff, click here to take you off our list. Is this a waste of time? I have been afraid to click on that for fear that I would be telling them that I am getting their email and then that they will just sell it to somebody else, and I will not reduce the amount of trash I'm getting.
Griff, we've talked about this in some other Tug meetings, and no doubt we'll talk about it more in the future. But my answer, first of all, this doesn't have anything to do with the actual scams we're talking about now. This is just
it's
trying to control junk mail is what it is, and junk mail, as I say, is not scam mail; it's spam. But Griff, my answer then, and my answer always is this: as far as I'm concerned, yes, you should always click those "Please remove me" requests at the bottom of your email.
That's all I wanted to hear.
And no, it's not dangerous because you're not revealing anything about yourself. You can say, well, no, there's a warm body out there. But as I said before, the fact the email didn't bounce tells them there's probably a warm body out there anyway. And they don't, frankly, care that much about you. They send out tens of thousands of these things because it costs them nothing. And they're just looking for suckers, So, but the reputable companies, there are lots of reputable companies that are sending out what we regard as spam, but it's really, they have another term for it in the trade. They call it USCE, unsolicited commercial email. people are sending you ads. And these are legitimate companies, and it's certainly legitimate for them, any company, to send you email if you've ever done business with them. I mean, these are the rules that everybody abides by. And if you've not done business, maybe they got the mailing list from some other company that's similar. They have to provide a disclaimer, explanation at the bottom saying that, and also a please remove me option. And as long as they provide that and they act on that, then they are in compliance with, believe it or not, the standards for USCE. In other words, spam. There are actually standards for spam. And the reputable companies adhere to those standards, because if they don't, then they quickly start finding their email blocked by by the mail service providers and by Google's and so on, because they're not abiding by the rules. So and by the way, if you don't unsubscribe, first of all, you will probably keep getting their email forever. And so your email load, your junk email load only increases. And it might even increase slightly exponentially, because if you don't delete theirs, then they're going to give your name to somebody else, and you're not going to delete then theirs. It's sort of like a virus, an exponential growth of viruses. So for myself, I always click those things. I don't click every single one that comes, but here's what I do. I ignore it most of the time. But some of the times, I don't think I have an hour to do this for a while. Some crap work, because I'm bored with doing real old guard work. So I go through, first of all, I sort the mail in my inbox on sender. So I'll see a bunch of these from the same place. And first of all, that's a signal that it's not real, these are not scams, because the scammers will never resend over again from the same place. And then I find the most recent one, and I click please remove me. And then I put that email aside into a separate folder that I've created that's called unsubscribed. Okay? And then I delete all the rest, because they're just in the way, and they're all together, so it's easy to delete a bunch of things that are together in your mailbox. Then if I see another one from that place, and I think, oh, didn't I unsubscribe? And then I go to my unsubscribe folder, and I find I did unsubscribe, and they're not honoring that. Now you have a case to complain. And, give them a few days. Some say it won't happen for a few days, a week. Give them adequate time. But if they're ignoring unsubscribe requests, then they are out of compliance. And then the next best thing, you could report them if it gives you satisfaction. Frankly, reporting these to any authority is not going to do any good at all. So then you create a mail filter so that their mail vanishes on arrival. Okay, that's my advice.
Thanks.
Okay, John Tomaszewski.
Yes. Yeah. Okay. Good. Thanks for that phone tip. I wish I could have used it. I got scammed the other day when I called Amazon, and they said, "Well, we can't handle you." And somebody gave me a number to call, and I called it. Next thing I know, they're uploading my information. I wish I would have had that earlier. But another scam that I'm getting is phony invoice receipts saying that they're going to charge me $350 and for re-upping my Norton utilities. And what's interesting about those is all they're giving you is a telephone number to call if you think this is wrong. And of course, I didn't have your tip, and I'm not going to call them. But since I know I didn't ever order anything from Norton, I know that it's a phony scam. But I've noticed I've gotten them from quite a few companies now that supposedly they're re-upping me for the next year. And if you want to, you call this number. I don't know where the scam goes.
I've been getting them too. I've been getting dozens a day, and they're from different places, and they're all slightly different. And and I did call that number, one of them. And much to my surprise, I got a very pleasant woman who didn't have an Indian accent. And she said, I said, I got this invoice. It must be a mistake. I don't think I ordered this. And these are things, they're not actually invoices. They're receipts. It says your account has already been charged, and and we're delivering the whatever it is. Usually it's Norton, so it'd be an online subscription. We've renewed your subscription. They're not taking money from me, and it doesn't. So and she said, "Oh yeah, well, give me the purchase order number there," and I did, and she took it down, did a thing. She said, "Well, I'll make sure that gets corrected." End of conversation. That's not the kind of conversation I expected to have with a scammer. I am so puzzled.
Yeah, but the question is, like, first thing I did was check my bank account and
So
make
did
sure
I.
that it wasn't charged.
No,
And
nothing.
so
It doesn't even have your name on the invoice. It doesn't even have any name on the invoice or any kind of bank credentials. It just doesn't, as a scam, it just doesn't compute. So if any of you can figure out, if you're getting these things like John and I are, and you can figure out what the hell is going on as a scam, let me know.
Poppy. You have to unmute.
It's good.
Well, I get a lot of mail and I unsubscribe them, maybe they go away. But like political mail and things like that, I mean, they come so much.
Yeah.
Not sometimes I'm sympathetic to the cause, so I say it's okay. But are you good? It goes into my my email is getting larger and larger in volume. Is there any way to delete them en masse?
Yes. Yes, there are ways. It's not something that I can explain in 2 minutes. But, I have logged over to your computer and shown you some of these techniques, and we could do that again. But that's actually a topic for a whole Tug session, and maybe we did that once, and maybe we should do that again.
We did. There's lots
how,
of
how to get an out of control mailbox under control. And again, I'm less inclined to put up a PowerPoint with a bunch of bullet points, and more inclined to do an under the hood demonstration of some things. And maybe I did that before, and maybe we could do it again.
We can do it again.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, next is George.
Yeah, Paul, great talk. Liked your examples. One of the areas that you missed is where they don't really compromise your email, but they do have your email address. And also by if they siphon off an email that has many two comments on it, they can use that to send out emails, the spam emails that you're talking about. And how you tell that it's not real is it'll have, for example, if I was the one that they were trying to impersonate, and it was at gmcull at gmail.com, what they do is it'll become gmcull A or 1. So a slight change at the end of the email, and people would typically see the first part of the email, see that it's the right address, and just continue, assume an answer, assuming that it's the correct address.
Yeah, well, I did cover that when I talked about the bogus email accounts that they create to say. So, George, I was talking about a bogus email address that has the personal part. Everything to the left of the @ sign is the same, but it's at a different email service. But, obviously another variant of that is it's the same email service, but they put a 1 or a 2 at the end, so it kind of looks like the same email address. But it's the same deal. I would think that...
Yeah, but I was just pointing out that by doing that, they don't have to crack your email account.
Well, but wait a second. Well, okay. Yes, I agree. So now there's like those first examples that I showed, where it was from the Reverend Chuck Rush, but then it was an email address that had nothing to. Yeah. Okay. So instead, right, they create the bogus email address. If they know his real email address, which in his case is pretty public information, they could create a bogus one. And yes, that would be a better version of that scam. Yep. That would get more suckers.
Yep.
Okay, Walt Meister is up again.
Yes, there's another feature in Thunderbird I like to mention. A couple months ago, I was getting all kinds of garbage email, and it was different than the regular email because the text was in some kind of fancy font, and but I was getting like 20 a day, and it was being peppered all through my regular email, and it was tough to even read my regular email because you can't avoid clicking on one of these. And I had deleted my junk folder, I guess years ago or something like that. But I found out if I resurrect the junk folder, I can tag it as junk. It'll go, as soon as I tag it, it goes right into the junk folder. And there's like 4 methods you can choose from in handling it, and one of them is called Spam Assassin, and I guess that's the most common one. So I selected that, and after a couple of months, those types of bogus emails declined. I mean, I don't get any anymore, so I found it very useful.
Well, what mail service are you using?
I'm using Optimum.
And what mail client, what front end are you using?
Well, I'm using Thunderbird as a front end.
Okay. And are you using IMAP or POP3?
Well, Optimum all along was using POP3, and but I found out recently that they supposedly went to IMAP, but I've never switched over to that.
Well, usually they would support both rather than just moving over, because they can't force all the users to do what's necessary to switch to at their end to IMAP.
Well, so, I nagged them for years, telling them they should put IMAP on.
Oh, so they finally listened to you. They got tired of the nagging, so they did it. Good for you, Walt.
But they never sent email out saying, "Hey, we changed to IMAP." They never did that, but supposedly they did. So I don't know.
Well, they started offering IMAP, but my point is that unless you did something at your end, you didn't change to IMAP. You're still using the old method,
right?
Unless you change it.
But nevertheless, Thunderbird helped me get rid of all that junky stuff.
Well, let me tell you, Spam Assassin. I know Spam Assassin, but well, I'm surprised you can hook it up to a Thunderbird account. Maybe it was actually happening on the server. Anyway, yeah, that's nice to know. Yeah, there's a lot of features in. There's a lot of features in Thunder, but it's not like Outlook, which doesn't just have a lot of features. It has stiflingly many options. It's like kitchen sink software. It's so laden with options and features, and it's just too overblown. Thunderbird, that's actually pretty clean and simple, and that's one of the reasons I like it.
Now the other thing I used to get email from banks telling me, my account has been broken into or something, and they're very legitimate looking emails. But if I look at it in detail as to like where the email address is coming from and what the reply to is, I realize, it's abuse. And right now I have like all the major banks at Google and Homeland Security. I've created email addresses that start with the name abuse, and if I get one of those, I forward it to the appropriate place, and I think it does help sometimes.
Yeah.
Hey, Jim Fagan.
Yeah, Paul, with regard to the situation where the lady responded to you politely and said she would correct the billing error. It reminds me, when I was with the Justice Department, I recall a number of cases where there were various fraudulent schemes, and a part of those fraudulent schemes were lulling letters, where these were generally mail fraud cases, where they would write letters like that to calm people down and reassure them, so they kind of went along with the scheme. And when you got the polite response from this lady, it made me think of that being a possible explanation of what was being done in your situation.
Interesting. Oh.
Yeah, it's certainly a possibility. Can't count it out. Okay, Jim Blinn.
Yeah, yes, I just wanted to remind people of something Paul has told us before, but when you get a message from Norton, if you just go to the email, the from part, and hover over it when it's in your inbox, you can see that it's some weird name at gmail.com probably. And, you know, Norton's not going to send you an email from Gmail. It's going to be from Norton. So that's the same thing with any order invoice or all those other crazy ones.
Yeah.
If you just hover over the email, you'll see it came from Gmail.
Pays to check the details, and lots of times you realize that it can't be real. But, you know, they do get better and better about camouflaging. Okay, we're out of questions. We ran for almost 2 hours again. I guess these topics are popular. Just two announcements. Next TUG meeting, which is in 3 weeks, will be Paul Tukey again, and this time talking about email threads and how current current email systems use them, and give us some advice on that. And also that there is an Exxon Computer Club meeting on Thursday morning at 10 o'clock. And it's on electric vehicles by a speaker from AAA. And if any of you who aren't on my mailing list are interested, if you send me a note, I'll make sure I send you the link. And other than that, I guess we're done for today. But thank you all for coming. Paul, thanks. You are so good about explaining these things and so patient at answering our questions, even though you probably answered them 1,000 times before from somebody else or from one of us. But we do appreciate your talents and your ability and willingness to contribute them to us. So thank you.
Thanks for the opportunity.
Thank you, Paul.
Thanks, Paul. Yes, thank you.
Thank you.
I'm going to leave the meeting.